everybody. I'm Dr. David Granet, and welcome to Health Matters. Today we're going to do the show a little differently than normal. Today we're going to talk about how animals, how pets affect human health, how they affect human life. And I can't think of a better guest that we could have today than Dr. Ruth MacPete. Welcome.
Hi.
Dr. MacPete is a doctor of veterinary medicine, but the word that's used now, I guess, is companion animal medicine. Did I get that right?
Yes.
She has an extensive background, has spent time at the Smithsonian National Zoo Park and Research Center, at the Malacca Zoo in Malaysia, and the Singapore Zoo, and so on and so on. Here in San Diego, she's well known as one of our TV personalities, talking about veterinary issues and health and care of your pets. And she's part of Friends of County Animal Shelters as well. You're everywhere, and you do a marvelous job. And when we decided to talk about how animals affect health, there was no one else on our list. You were it, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I started talking about how animals affect health, and I started looking in preparation so I wouldn't sound foolish as I talk to you. I broke it down sort of thinking about physical and thinking about psychologic. I can't believe what I found, because as a doctor I didn't know this. There are studies that have shown that having a pet increases longevity after a heart attack. 3 or 4-fold for the first year, lowering cholesterol, decreasing blood pressure, increasing activity, on and on and on, affecting the humans that care for these pets.
I think people that have grown up with pets have always known that pets have really enriched their life and made them healthier. But now, like you said, there are a lot of scientific studies and research backing the fact that animals definitely have a positive impact on people's health for all the reasons you mentioned. Definitely they lower blood pressure. That's been proven that they lower blood pressure. They help with anxiety and stress. They've actually been shown to lower cholesterol and triglycerides as well, and like you said, they're instrumental too emotionally for people. They help with stress and depression. They can be phenomenal companions for people. They're always there. They're also great for exercise. You always have an eager buddy to go running or walk with, so they're great for people too, just trying to get out there. So
let's talk about a couple of these more specifically, because I think it's just astounding. We were chatting about this before the show started. There have been studies showing that animals, dogs, can help detect cancer.
Yes, that's some of the amazing stuff that's come out, is that there have been some studies in the September 2004 issue of the British Medical Journal. There was a study out from Cambridge Veterinary School that actually looked at using dogs to detect prostate cancer, and they trained the dogs to actually sniff urine and determine which animals had, or which humans had prostate cancer. And it was remarkable, and it was a double-blinded study, the first of its kind, and the results, like I said, were just amazing, because they did show that these animals, their keen sense of smell was so good that they were better than early medicine at detecting cancers. So
people spend all this time and effort looking at alternative medical approaches. Boy, you know, this is as alternative as it gets and as safe as it gets. Imagine lowering your blood pressure without a pill.
Yes.
And one of the things that I just loved that I saw was that in nursing homes, when they have bring in pets, that the medical visits decrease.
Yes. Yeah. And that's, I've personally done that, and it's amazing. I think animals bring so much out in people, and it's a common bond that a lot of people share, that you will also find that it's a common way for people just to talk to each other. You know, right away you have something in common with someone, and I found that that was the case in nursing homes, that people that were quiet or shy or maybe, you know, a little withdrawn, as soon as they saw you with an animal, would come over and talk to you and tell you about their childhood experiences and when they had a dog and what it was like. And it's amazing to share that in common, and you know, I just think that most people, anybody that's had an animal knows, but anybody that hasn't, you know, hopefully we can convince them at the end of the show that animals are definitely the way to go. They're wonderful companions, and they're good for your health.
I think most people know about service dogs. There are people with poor vision who walk around with a dog and help them. But I'm not sure most people know that dogs have been used as service dogs for seizures and hypoglycemia.
Yes, That's pretty interesting too. The University of Florida Veterinary School in Gainesville has actually looked at using dogs to detect seizures. And the amazing thing, again, it comes down to their keen sense of smell. They think that dogs can actually be trained to pick up smells that we're not even aware of and chemical changes in the body that can detect a seizure 15 to 45 minutes prior to it happening. And the reason, prior to the seizure. And the reason that's amazing is that it allows an epileptic person to get to safety. So if they're driving, they can pull over. If they're standing, they can sit down. They can lay down. The other thing that these dogs have been trained to do is that they've also been trained to assist the person if they have a seizure and they need to get up. They're also trained to hit medical alert buttons. They can bring phones to people, so they will actually go and retrieve a cordless phone and bring it to someone so that after a seizure, if they need help, they can get to help. That's still being looked at, and I know that some of the epilepsy foundations are still a little skeptical, and the research is still out and the jury's out about those dogs, but you can see more about it on their websites, but they're doing a lot of research on it. They've also, interestingly enough, found that with Parkinson's, dogs have also been trained, and that was actually done in Pennsylvania, at Pennsylvania Hospital with an MD, and he got together with some people with guide dogs and trained dogs to actually help people that suffer from Parkinson's disease, so that when the human actually freezes and has trouble walking and would normally fall, the dog can actually tap their leg and help them unfreeze, and then again assist them getting up or assist them with help.
It's somewhat astounding to me, I have to admit. You've, I think, been involved with some projects here in San Diego for special needs kids and animals. Some of them not pets, some of them are bigger. Can you tell us about that?
Well, there's a lot of stuff going on here. The Helen Woodward Center is phenomenal at getting out there and doing things with kids, working with autistic children, doing things with children to get them out on horses, on horseback riding. I know, I haven't personally been involved, but I know that there's also been a lot of work with dolphins and autistic children and getting them in surf classes and getting them out close to the dolphins. And again, they've seen amazing results. I think SeaWorld does some stuff like that as well, to just really touch these children, and they found that with autistic kids, again, it brings them out of their shell, and they seem to have a special bond with the animals that maybe they're not having with people at that point.
I find that, again, amazing that we have such a relatively simple way to reach autistic children who are so difficult to get to otherwise. It's really a blessing. Now, you have a friend that you brought with you today.
I do.
And I want to let everybody know we will be... There's a reason why he's here. What's his name?
This is Will, and he's an Australian Terrier, which is a unique breed. You don't see them everywhere. They kind of look like a Yorkie, but a lot bigger. So, and it is a breed, again, from Australia, the Australian Terrier.
Well, he's a very good-looking dog, and incredibly well behaved as we're here. We've made, I think, the pitch pretty clearly so far that your health can be affected. We've talked about specialized ways, but what about just a family with a couple of kids getting a dog?
Well, I think...
And we're talking about dogs. I'm a dog person, as you know.
And I'm a huge cat person, too,
okay.
So cats are awesome. I think, as you know, they can do a lot for a family. So if you have children that are afraid of animals, it's a great way of exposing them to an animal. It teaches them a lot of different things: responsibility, caring for a pet. It teaches them love and how to have a bond with something, which can then go on to pass on to relationships they have with humans. There's a lot of different things, and they've actually shown now medically too that if you have kids, having them exposed to animals early helps with allergies. So that's another big pitch for having animals even when you have little kids and infants, because now it's likely that it's going to help with allergies down the line, prevent them from having allergies.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because the hygiene hypothesis, which says that we're too clean, that we don't expose kids, this is a very important issue, that exposing them early, and especially because many people are allergic. And this turns the conversation slightly to the things that animals can bring into our lives that we don't love as much. For example, my wife is really allergic to cats. It's why we have a dog, and you met our dog Deli, and he's on my tie. I wear him around whenever I can. And by way of disclosure, you've been our doctor, and I think that I know we have a dog in part because I love dogs. My wife's allergic, but cat allergies are a big deal, and so. Not just allergies, but there are other things that we have to worry about having animals in our house.
Yes. There are zoonotic diseases or diseases that can spread from animals to human, and it's important that everybody's aware of that, but it's really important that people keep in mind that millions of people have animals and never have a problem. The incidence of zoonotic diseases is very, very low. And so the key to that is proper hygiene, washing your hands, teaching your family and your children about hygiene so that you don't have any of these things spread. But yes, as you know, there are some things that can spread from animals to human, and that's, it's why, like I said, you should have routine vet care, make sure you're aware of the things that can spread, like parasites, and take precautions.
Well, it sounds like another good reason to have an animal in your house. Teaching responsibility to children, hygiene to your children. Boy, I mean, those are good things.
Yeah.
I know for our dog, we've made it our son's job to make sure that the dog gets fed. And he takes that very responsibly and takes it very seriously. And it's been wonderful to watch his maturity with the dog.
Yes.
Where should dogs or cats sleep in a house?
I think that depends on who you ask. I think that my cats sleep in bed with me. I have a huge dog who's older and arthritic, so he sleeps next to the bed. I think that's a personal choice. There are tons of people that have animals in their bed with them. There are other people that don't like them in the bed for various reasons and have them on their own dog bed. I think the most important thing that I would say is that it is ideal to have a pet that lives in the house, especially in the climate that we have. This is really not the best climate to have a dog that lives outside, especially with this weather. It's just too hot. It's been humid lately. A lot of dogs cannot handle the heat. In terms of cats, having a cat outside is risky to their health. It lowers their lifespan, and also there are a lot of coyotes and other hazards to cats. So definitely I would say in the house, and then where you put them is personal preference, and up to everybody. There's tons of arguments for both. So I think they make great cuddlers, so they're great.
Obviously, yes. Well, towards the next couple of minutes, I'm going to ask you to help us make sure that we take good care of our pets. But before we get there, I want to ask you a couple other things. One is, we do encounter coyotes. We do encounter strange dogs. We encounter strange animals that aren't ours, that we see on the street or in the backwoods. Guidelines for the right way to approach an animal that you don't know.
The most important thing is that people are aware that they, with an animal that you don't know, that it could harm you. It could actually bite you. An injured animal, same thing, even more so, because they're scared, they're in pain. So it's important that people take precautions. If you find an animal that's been hit by a car and you're trying to help it, you want to do that either with gloves or a box, if you can kind of safely scoop it in. If you can't, and it's a wild animal, there's a wonderful organization here, Project Wildlife in San Diego. But Project Wildlife will come out, get the animal, and help you. Department of Animal Services will also help as well with animals if you encounter a rattlesnake or anything like that. And those organizations are the best equipped to handle an animal that may be dangerous, because we don't want anybody to get hurt. One thing I would mention is that rabies in domestic animals has not been seen in San Diego since 1968. However, it is in the bat population here, and they do see it. So if you were to if someone encountered a bat that was acting strangely, or a raccoon or anything like that, you don't want to handle that animal. You want to call somebody like the Department of Animal Services or Project Wildlife to get out there and get that animal.
I don't think I would handle a bat anyway, but
most people wouldn't, but you never know.
Okay. For children, and for parents talking to children, plenty of people walking a dog that's not theirs. How do they approach a family or another dog, even if they're good with animals? They obviously don't just run over to the dog.
Yes. I think it's important that parents teach their children respect for animals, and also the fact that they are animals and we can't predict their behavior. Even our own animals in times of stress or pain could react differently than we expect. And so if you have children, it's important that they don't ever run over to another dog. They should always ask someone, is it okay if I touch your dog? And usually most people are going to be, will tell you responsibly, no, my dog is not good with children, please don't touch them, but thanks for asking. Or they will say, sure, he loves kids, go ahead and touch them. But that's our responsibility as parents to make sure that your child doesn't get hurt, and they know that. And we do have leash laws in San Diego, so dogs should be on leash and not running around, but that may happen.
So now let's ask, how do you choose a pet? There are multiple different breeds. My son read the entire, the
he is a little
book.
Expert at
Yes, and he
dogs.
knew every breed. And for our family, our dog is a mixed breed now called a Labradoodle because they don't shed very much and they're supposed to be hypoallergenic. But there are different animals that are better for certain types of families and certain types of children, etc. What can people do when they're trying to decide for their family what the best pet is?
I think they should, first of all, they need to figure out what's important to them. So they need to look at size of a dog. Do they want a big dog? Do they want a little dog? Someone that is elderly probably doesn't want a big dog that may be strong and knock them down. Same thing with they don't want a dog that's necessarily young that may be too energetic for them. Somebody with kids and an active family, or somebody that runs, on the other hand, wants a dog that can run with them and be active. So those are important things to kind of look at. If you're looking at a dog, you definitely want to take into consideration your family needs, allergies. You want to look at their hair. Are you willing to have a dog that you have to take to the groomers and have groomed all the time? Do you want a dog with short hair? Do you care if it sheds? Those are all things that are really important to look at. Same thing with health is, are you somebody that's willing to clean their ears, clean their eyes? Certain breeds do have some conditions where they're going to require some maintenance. And if you know that your family's not interested in that, then it's better to pick a dog that doesn't have that kind of maintenance required.
Do different breeds have different personalities?
They do. That's another thing. You can look at personality that fits your family. There are certain breeds that are much more mellow and subdued, and so they work really well in an inactive family. And there are certain dogs that are notorious for chewing or for being active, and those will work well again in an active family. And you can look at, there's great websites that people can use that helps you plug in the traits of your family, what you're looking for in a dog, and it'll come out with the different breeds that may be best for your family.
Oh, that's terrific. I didn't know that existed.
Yeah, that's a great thing. And there are books on it as well. And then I would put a big plug in for mixed breed dogs. So you get the best of, a lot of different worlds. You get rid of a lot of the genetic health problems. And there's a lot of dogs down at the shelters and in rescue groups that really need homes that may not be a purebred. But you can look at those traits too, because a lot of times it's a mix of a couple different things, so you'll be able to kind of see what you're interested in.
Well, I can't take it anymore. I want to take a look at your friend, and using him as a guide, talk about the things that are important for people who now have gone through the decision to make that they have a pet. Mm-hmm. Now, how do we take care of a pet properly? What are the things that we must do? Like
we talked about, it's really important to have good care for your animal. One, for your own safety, for your family's safety, to prevent those zoonotic diseases. It's important to have regular, routine vet care. So before you get a dog, find a veterinarian, establish immediately when you get the dog, new dog or cat, you want to get into your veterinarian, even before taking them home if you can, so you can make sure they don't have any parasites that might spread to another animal or even your children.
I remember that when we got our dog, it came from a breeder in Kansas City, and there were shots and other things that we're supposed to get.
Yes, your veterinarian will help you with that, because different animals have different requirements, and also the stage of their life determines what vaccines they need as well. So that's important to get your veterinarian, establish your care. They're going to help you with vaccines, deworming. They're going to talk with you about flea and heartworm prevention. One of the other most important things right off the bat is to make sure that your dog has a collar and tags. Tags are key because dogs get lost. So you can see Will's got his little tags. Your veterinarian will also talk with you about a microchip, which is a little device that's actually put under the skin. And they're read with these scanners. And what this scanner does is all veterinarians in San Diego have this, as well as all of the county animal shelters and humane societies all have these. These are wonderful because if an animal gets lost or is brought into a vet clinic as a stray, if your animal is microchipped, they can use this little device to read a chip, which then allows them, and it just gets passed over their skin. So yeah, we just pass it over their skin, and it will beep and pick up a microchip number. With the chip number, they can call a database at the veterinarian or the shelter can, and it is registered then to an owner, which has their phone number, their information, so that they can be contacted, and so they can get their animal back right away. And it's amazing the difference these makes. I do work down at the shelter, and it really can be the difference between getting your dog or cat back, or, right away. So
how long does it take to put that chip in?
Seconds. So it's put in with a syringe. It's put in with a syringe. I think, all needles have a little degree of discomfort to them. But I have to tell you, dogs and cats are way braver than people, and they usually don't even flinch. So they're usually pretty darn brave. But it's just put in with a syringe like a vaccine, and it's just put in underneath the skin in the shoulder region. It's the size of a grain of rice. It doesn't hurt them. It stays there for life. If you move, you can update the information because it's just got a little number in it. So that way you can change the information. One thing I always tell people is it's not a tracking device, so it's not low jack. It doesn't tell us where your animal is, but it can help if they end up at a shelter, which most animals do end up being brought into a shelter if they're found lost, or a vet clinic. And just amazing technology, and like I said, it doesn't hurt them, and it's really can be a life-saving device for them. So
early on with our dog, we have a male dog, you talked to us about the issues of reproduction.
Yes.
And about whether or not we want to allow our dog to grow up reproducing or not, et cetera. And it was an interesting discussion for me because I learned a lot. You have a different perspective on it, seeing what goes on at the shelter and what goes on wholesale. Can you share that with us?
Well, I think all veterinarians would tell you the best thing to do if you're not breeding an animal, if it's not a show dog that you're breeding, all animals should be spayed and neutered. There's a number of reasons. Health-wise for them, it helps them. With females, it can prevent a life-threatening uterine infection called a pyometra. It also, in dogs, will lower the risk of breast cancer. Every heat cycle that a dog goes in, the risk of breast cancer goes up. So that's why veterinarians recommend doing it at about 6 months of age, even before their first heat cycle. They recommend spaying a female. With males, it takes out the risk of testicular cancer. So we're removing the testicles, and it does actually prevent them from getting testicular cancer and helping with some prostate diseases. So definitely for their health, it's better. It helps cut down on roaming. It can help with some aggression issues as well. But one thing I would tell people is it doesn't change their personality. That's one thing people are always worried about. They have the same personality. It's not going to change that. And it is something that, again, they're very brave. They do great with the surgery, and it's also really helps in terms of over pet population. As you talked about, the shelters are overpopulated right now with dogs and cats, and especially cats that, 2 cats that breed can just produce hundreds of offspring. And so it's really important for people to take that responsibility if you're going to have a pet and make sure that it's spayed and neutered so you're not contributing to the death of a lot of unwanted pets at the shelter.
Basic care and maintenance of your dog.
Well, again, we talked about it's important to go to the vet regularly. At home, you want to be really in tune with your pet, so you want to definitely just have a visual look at your dog all the time. You want to take a look at their eyes, make sure their eyes are clear. You want to look at their ears, make sure their ears are clean. You shouldn't see a lot of wax or debris in the ears. You want to also look at their teeth, so you can lift up their gums and kind of look at their teeth. Make sure those are clean and that their gums are nice and pink. Bless you. You want to look at their coat, make sure their coat is shiny, that you're not seeing a lot of flakes or baldness. Any of these things, or lumps or bumps, anything that you find with your animal should be brought to the attention of your veterinarian right away. Don't wait for a regular exam. If you see something that's not right, the sooner you tell your veterinarian, the better, because they can address the problem and correct any medical issues that are going on.
Regularly for fleas and ticks, anything we do?
Yes, definitely recommend. There's a bunch of different products out there on the market. You want to get it from a veterinarian. Frontline, Advantage, Revolution, Capstar, those are wonderful products. All of those products are sold through veterinarians, and they work really well. They all work differently, but they're very safe products. None of those are pyrethrins or permethrins, which are the old sprays and dips that we used to use on animals that were very toxic to to not only animals but the environment. So these are much safer products, and they can keep those pesky pests off your animal. And then heartworm prevention as well. So I definitely would recommend that. Heartworm prevention also has in it a dewormer. So you're automatically every month deworming your animal to prevent them from having roundworms, which is one of the zoonotic diseases. So definitely if you have children, it's a great idea because you know that you're deworming your pet every month. So
we know that animals are living longer. I recently learned that just like humans are. Veterinary care is expensive. How do people prepare in the last couple of minutes that we have left? Health insurance for pets?
Absolutely. There's a number of different companies out there. There are 3 main companies right now, and you can talk to your vet about that or look at the website again for more information. But pet insurance is a good idea. One thing I tell everybody is get it when they're young, just like with humans, before there are existing problems. The pet insurance goes with the animal. It has nothing to do with the veterinarian. So the nice thing about that is with these 3 major companies, you can switch veterinarians, you can move, you can go to an emergency clinic, but it will cover you for emergencies. So if your animal is hit by a car, eats a rock, or swallows something that it shouldn't, gets into a poison, anything like that, it's going to cover a percentage of that visit. So it's very good. It also, there are plans for wellness, so you can have more comprehensive insurance plans that cover vaccines and wellness visits as well. It's really up to you as to how much coverage you get, but I do think they're a good idea. I think it's important that people, before they get an animal, make sure that they have the financial means to at least take care of them or know what's available. There are low-cost spay and neuter facilities, and you can talk to the Department of Animal Services for more information about those.
And from a food standpoint, there are very expensive high-end foods that you can find, but they're also
lower
not
ones,
so expensive.
Yeah. So again, people need to look at their budget. You do want to make sure, obviously, that you can afford vaccines and routine health care and the food and everything else before you run out and get a pet. And then talk to your veterinarian about what the best food is for them. The premium foods, obviously, there's more research that goes into them, and the nutrients, may be a little bit better, but not everybody can afford those, and there's lots of animals that have been on other food for a long time. I just would say talk to your vet, find out what they recommend and what you can do.
It seems like a cheap investment for somebody who can, or a life that can help you lower your blood pressure and help you survive a heart attack and all the other things that we talked about, and for a lifelong joy relationship that you have.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's been just a wonder, and I can't believe how well behaved. It's just absolutely terrific. Well, I think once again you've just heard an expert, Dr. Ruth MacPete, take you through the importance of having an animal, but taking care of that animal if you choose to have one. These are lives, and the lives can impact you sometimes more than taking a vitamin each morning or some of the other things that we do each day. Certainly better than a pack of cigarettes that we spend money on. I think that I can tell you from my perspective, having a dog has been one of the most wonderful things I've ever done in my life, and for my kids as well. If you're going to have a pet, know how to take care of it. If you have health issues, you may find that a pet is very valuable. If you have a member of your family, a senior who might be alone, a pet might be extraordinarily valuable, both from a health and a psychological standpoint. Know what you're doing. Knowledge still is power, and we say that every time right here on Health Matters. And I'll see you again next time. I'm Dr. David Granet.